As far as my eyes can see, as far as I think, nothing is contrived. Everything is blurred as if nothing ever existed. But the wind from the mountain still blows. And like the wind, everything passes without leaving a trace. And I feel as if I don't exist. And she said again, quietly this time,
You have a wife and children. You must be happy now.
I'm still figuring that out.
Of course. Because everyone doesn't know their happiness. They only know their difficulties.
And she fell silent again. We both remained silent. The wind from the mountain came again, hitting my face. And then she spoke again.
It's been 5 years, hasn't it? Yes. 5 years of marriage and having children.
I stayed in my silence, thought she would continue.
Do you love your wife, of course?
I have 2 children now.
Yes. 2. You must care for them. And they care for you too. You must be happy.
She paused again. We were silent. The wind from the mountain came again, hitting my face. And then she spoke again.
Do you remember?
What?
9 years ago.
Yes, I still remember. But that's a long time ago.
Yes. It's been a long time. I never wanted to remember it. But now, I remember it again.
She fell silent again and looked far towards the mountain.
Back then, it was like now. We sat like this too. But the place was not here. I remember, once you held my hand tightly. I let it be held. And in the pressure of your grip, I knew you wanted to talk. And I waited for it. But you didn't say anything.
That time, our childhood days.
I said, but quickly regretted saying it.
Those fingers are gone now. Both of my hands, you see? Amputated because of the war. And I can't feel happiness like before. To let you hold them again. At first, I liked to cry. Cry for everything that was lost. But now I don't cry anymore. Crying for the past is pointless. What's the use?
I became sentimental and my heart screamed, shouting 1,000 memories that came overwhelmingly. I tried to discard all the emotions, but I became even more submerged by them. And the wind blew more mournfully. It felt like there was a compassionate song accompanying it.
It's useless.
She said after a while, and I waited for her to speak again. But that's all she said. And then she raised her amputated hands in front of her, crossed them, and rubbed them against each other. Seeing that, I wanted to sob. Sob like when my mother's grave was about to be covered.
You have children and a wife. That's why you have something to hold on to in life, at least a minimal purpose. But the most important thing is that you have hands. So you can achieve whatever you desire. As a husband, as a father, as a man, as a human being, like we used to talk about, you can achieve something you want. How beautiful life is if we can do what we desire. But now, of course, I can't do what I want. My youthful days have been swallowed by this misfortune.
And she lowered her hands again. She looked beyond the mountain ridge where the wind blew. At that moment, I wanted to say something to her. A beautiful and encouraging speech like I used to say to my subordinates on the Western Front. But how could I say it when the spirit itself had been thrown away long ago?
I used to be beautiful too, right? Even the most beautiful on the Western Front. I knew everyone wanted to get my attention. Everyone was willing to work hard in front of me. Everyone was willing to fight and kill enemies just to get closer to me. But when the enemies came, and coincidentally I wasn't there, they ran away losing their courage. When leaders came to the front in times when there were no women, I became busy. I was asked to arrange their beds. And when they were about to leave, they looked for me first. They shook my hands tightly. And they spoke beautiful words filled with emotion. On behalf of the government and all the leaders of the independence revolution, we express our gratitude to you. We are very proud to have a female patriot like you, who always makes time to encourage our soldiers. We are also confident that if you were not here, this front would have long been occupied by the enemy. That's how it was. When someone was sick, I took care of them too. And during peaceful nights, they asked for entertainment. I sang. They played the guitar. And they could forget about all the pressing issues. And at that time, I often felt that the number of my hands was still not enough. I wanted more hands. If possible, as many as these fingers. But at one point, I also thought that life like that would not last forever. At some point, it would come to an end. And when the war was over, I wanted to go back to school. What kind of school? I don't know. What I knew was more knowledge and more things to do. Yes, that's all.
One by one, her words resonated in my heart. And now, her voice sounded more cutting, more piercing. I became afraid to lift my head. The longer it went on, the more my whole being languished near her. The sun at that time was very bright. The shadows of mangosteen trees danced on the green grass. And beside me, she sat with her legs stretched out. Those legs were the same as before. Legs that used to tempt me. Now those legs lay there, motionless. And I couldn't look at them for too long because those legs didn't speak to me anymore. And my feelings were not like before. That's what made me feel wounded in my feelings. I wanted to comfort her, to tell the life story of Helen Keller. I even wanted to say that I wanted to take care of her. Take care of her? No. I already have 2 children. When I realized that path was a dead end, I regretted myself. Also regretted everything that had happened. And I couldn't pray for her. Prayer seemed useless now. Everyone has prayers. And prayer is just prayer. It's useless. So, I felt everything flew away.
What's on your mind?
She suddenly asked. I became nervous and startled by the burden of my feelings. And I said that I was thinking about what she said.
Why bother thinking about it? What's the point? Everything is as it should be, right?
What?
You're thinking about me, aren't you?
Not exactly. I'm thinking about what I can do.
For what?
For you.
It's pointless.
Suddenly, I remembered the rehabilitation center in Solo. And then I told her. She remained silent for a while, and her eyes seemed to transcend everything she could see.
How is it? If you agree, don't think about anything. I'll take care of everything.
But she still didn't react, and I pressed on.
If necessary. Oh, no, I'll take you myself. Perhaps you won't be there for long, and then you can go back. And afterward, you can do something again, like before.
Then she looked at me, and she smiled. But this smile pierced my heart. I became nervous.
Why are you smiling?
Can someone like me do anything?
She asked with a voice that sounded completely different, so bitter, and I became hesitant to convince her again. Then I pretended not to listen to what she was saying. I gave her a passionate encouragement, which I no longer believed in, and she seemed to know that.
You are not confident in your words. How can I convince it?
But at least you can do more later.
Of course. Just like before, right? As if without me, everything would be incomplete. All the work would seem unfinished. Everyone needs me. Everyone falls in love with me. Everyone is thirsty for everything I have. But after that, what else?
I no longer felt the breeze from the mountain. What I felt was the impact of her words on my face, because it felt like a bitter scolding dipped in gall.
You pity me, don't you?
Why not?
Yes. Of course, you pity me. Because you feel like standing in a very high place, while I am far below you. Then from that place, you look at me. Oh, how small you are, Nun.
I wanted to refute her, but before I could choose my words, she spoke again.
Just like before. If it wasn't me greeting you, you wouldn't know who I am, right? When your eyes first saw me earlier, you seemed to see a disgusting beggar. How quickly everything changes. And even faster, someone forgets someone else, even if that person was once loved.
I wanted to look directly at her, trying to express that everything has certain reasons. I wanted to oppose her eyes, trying to convince her, as I used to do to her.
Don't get me wrong, I know you're a good man.
Noon! Sis Noon!
Suddenly a little girl called out, and that sudden call melted the heavy tension between us.
Where is Sis Nun going? Just wandering around.
The little girl said again, looking at me with suspicion and hatred. I was surprised that such a sweet girl could behave like this towards Nun. Is this Nun's living environment? I thought. Where from a young age, children have regarded Nun as a useless. I looked at Nun's ever-changing face, but she quickly hid her face from my view.
Grandma's calling. Hurry up.
Please help me stand. I want to go to Grandma.
Nun said to me with a voice deep in her throat, and I helped her stand. But this time, I became sentimental again, even more than before.
Grandma is indeed very old. She has forgotten everything. Except for me. And if I'm not near her, Grandma feels like she's losing her life.
She said again, and then left me in contemplation. When she was about to turn towards the main road, she turned her body back to me and said again,
Grandma cannot be separated from me. Between the two of us, there is a unity of fate. And Grandma wants to live longer because she doesn't want to leave me alone.
She walked again, but shortly after, she turned again and said,
But when Grandma is no longer here, I won't need anything either.
Then she walked. But before she disappeared behind the swaying bushes blown by the wind from the mountain, I told her.
I'll come back here tomorrow, Nun.
But she didn't look back, disappearing behind those bushes. And the bushes danced even more joyfully as they were blown by the wind from the mountain. The wind from the mountain blew the bushes, making them sway and dance merrily. That wind also blew on me, Nun, and that little girl.